It's the George Plaster Show. 30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. Featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Watson Brown. And it's a shame it's taken this long to get an introduction for this Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer, Kelly Holcomb, along with young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in on what is a crazy weather day, but maybe even a crazier day in our world of sports. Most of you who are watching know by now that about 2 hours ago, the Titans fired Mike Vrabel. And certainly the first hour of the show is going to be spent on that subject entirely. Watson Brown and Kelly Holcomb will join us in about 2 minutes, and then Terry McCormick, Main Street Media, will join us at 2:15. Let's run through one piece of the statement that Amy Adams Strunk had today in her release. It says, as the NFL continues to innovate and evolve, I believe the team's best position for sustained success will be those who empower an aligned and collaborative team across all football functions. Whatever. Nice thought. Clearly, over the last 3 or 4 years, that hasn't been happening over there. Let me start with this. Yesterday, you all heard me at the beginning of the show say that a couple of very close friends of Mike Vrabel had let it out, and it had gotten to me that they were very concerned about Mike Vrabel's future, and that one of the telltale signs was Amy not being on the field for the first time since she took over as the controlling owner of the team. Well, let me say this on Amy. Now, this is the second time that she has played referee in a power struggle. A year ago, she sided with Mike Vrabel over John Robinson. And today, in spite of the gobbledygook that you may hear at 4 o'clock today from Rand Carthon, who will be coming out of the witness protection program to give us some words of wisdom, the bottom line is there's been another power struggle. You can cut through all the crap. This time she sided with Rand Carthon over Mike Vrabel. Not that I need to be giving her advice, but what the hell, I'll do it anyway. The next go-round, she needs to make it clear to both Rand Carthon and whoever the new coach is that if there's any more of this, she'll get rid of both of them. And she needs to make it very clear to both parties, to Rand Carthon, who will come out of the witness protection program today at 4 o'clock to impart wisdom to us, and to whoever he hires as the next head coach, most likely somebody with past 49er ties, that they damn well better get along. And that all that BS that Rand Carthon put out there when he got hired about collaborative this and collaborative that, it was all a bunch of crap. It really was. There wasn't a lick of truth to any of it. They weren't collaborative about anything. With that in mind, let's go to Murfreesboro and say hello to Kelly Holcomb. Kelly, Witness Protection Program.
I mean, you're all on the witness protection program. Good, great. Hey, why don't you go to the press conference today and shake his hand and say, "Nice to see you. You've been in the witness protection program."
You know, I'd like to, except that it looks like it's a 4 p.m. deal. It looks like it's him and not her. She needs to be a part of that, but that's just my opinion. So let me also bring Watson Brown by phone into the conversation from Cookeville. And guys, let me get both of you. Watson, I know you're in there.
Yep.
There you are. Beautiful. So let me get y'all's reactions. Kelly, you start it.
I mean, I think her statement just said it. It was kind of dysfunctional, and I was thinking about that earlier when I heard the news. I mean, normally, George, when a coach gets fired, the GM is the one that fires him. But this was kind of a different situation where you had a head coach, and then, like you just alluded to, Amy Adams Strunk, she sided with Mike Vrabel and got rid of John Robinson. Well, he was the head coach. Now you got to bring in a GM. That normally doesn't. That's kind of a different situation there, and I think that as time went on, you want, if you're her, you want this relationship to grow and to be good, and y'all talk, and hey, maybe we can be on the same page about things. But a lot of times that doesn't happen. And I think obviously she sided with Mike Vrabel about John Robinson. Now she's sided with the guy that she paid and she hired to come in here and fix this mess. And she's siding with him because obviously the last couple of years it just has not been good. They hadn't done well in the draft. They hadn't done very good on the field. They were, the number one seed a couple of years ago in the AFC playoffs and got beat. So this is a bottom line business, George. Everybody knows that. You got to win, and that's all she's thinking. She's in it to win, and if you're not doing it, you got to, you got to go. And I think that's exactly what's happened. I think her statement kind of summed it up.
Watson, give me your thoughts on today's move.
Pretty much what I felt yesterday, George. When the two positions aren't together, it absolutely won't work, will not work, won't work in the future. I don't think you can get them together and sit them down, get them to hug each other, and it'll work itself out. Those two positions, to me, if they're not on, the NFL is your franchise is done. And so she had to do something. I've wondered all along, guys. I really have, and nobody really jumped on this, but I've wondered all along if Mike was really behind wanting John Robinson gone, and that wasn't her call, and Mike went along with it. I've wondered that from day one because basically John hired Mike, and they had done really well together. I know there was some draft problems, and they got beat in the first game of the playoffs when they had the number one seed and that. But I just wonder, and I truly have wondered all along if Mike was really much involved in this hire and bringing Carthon in. And so works itself out. I said yesterday I thought that he could get fired. And the reason is Mike's tough. He don't. If it's not going the way he wants, he's going to let you know it. And I think he would be hard to deal with when he's not on page with what's going on. And I don't think he'd back off. I don't think Mike is one of those that would just back off and say, well, I'll live with it. So I think it's obvious to me also, George, that they weren't waiting to see if they could get a draft choice for him or anything. They were ready to move on.
Kelly, let me start this one with you. Do you believe that on opening day 2024, Mike Vrabel will be a head football coach in the NFL?
Oh, yeah. He's in the good old boy network, George. I mean, coach knows about that. I mean, once you get in, you're in. I don't know. That's a tough question. I think that when he went to New England, I think that it was discussed. Who knows what's going to go on up there? Now, if Bill Belichick gets fired from New England, I would think he would be the front runner. He's got head coaching experience, obviously. He's done some good things in his tenure here. Once you get in that league, George, you can stay for a long time if you just keep your mouth shut and do what they ask you to do. I don't know about a head coach. I know he's going to be coaching somewhere. He might have to go back to defensive coordinator, but I think he showed signs of being a pretty good head coach, and I think the players liked him. And you can tell by what he did in the last game. I mean, they had absolutely nothing to play for, and they tried to keep the Jacksonville Jaguars out of the playoffs, and they absolutely did because Jacksonville had everything to gain, and Tennessee had nothing. And I thought he got those guys to play well. And I think if you're a GM or if you're an owner, you look at that and say, this guy, there's something to him. He can get guys to play for him. He's been in the battles before. He knows what it takes to be a player and to cross over and be a coach. So I think probably he will be a head coach in 2024.
Watson, I'm guessing you think that too, don't you?
Yeah, I think he's going to be gobbled up pretty quick. I don't know what happens in New England, but I think he's going to get one of these jobs that's out there. There's no doubt in my mind about it. And I hate to see him go, George. I've enjoyed watching these teams play. There's a certain style he believes in. I'm not sure the next job he gets, he won't adjust his offensive philosophy some. I think back about his success with the Patriots, and it wasn't all defense. They had Tom Brady, and they were pretty dadgum good on offense too. So I'm not sure Mike didn't fall into that, hey, we're winning what we're doing. We've got this great big back. Let's just keep running the ball, be conservative, play good defense. And I think here in the last couple of years, he's realized that the league has even changed more and more, and you got to score points to win games in this league. And I'll bet you he changes his offensive philosophy in the next one, but he will have another job, and I don't think it'll be that long, within a couple of weeks.
Terry McCormick joins us. He's over at the Titans headquarters for what should be somewhere in the neighborhood of a 4 p.m. press conference today. He joins us through Main Street Media. Terry, how are you?
I'm good, George. How are you guys?
Good. So let's try to get some timetable here. We believe, and we may not learn anything later today, but there is a press conference, that there was a meeting yesterday between these three?
Either yesterday or this morning. Apparently, there were meetings that were held, and the news came out around 11:30, 11:45 that Mike Vrabel was being let go as the head coach of the Titans after 6 seasons. Shortly thereafter, Amy Adams-Strunk sent out a lengthy statement to that effect.
So obviously, there was serious butting of heads between Vrabel and Rand Carthon. Now, I don't expect Carthon to admit to any of this. Instead, we'll go back into the witness protection program after this is over. But what do you think he says today?
It's going to be interesting, but one thing that I gleaned from Amy Adams-Strunk's statement that she made is that she wanted a fresh approach, at the head coaching position. And I took that to mean, and maybe you guys have already discussed this, I took that to mean that the next coach probably needs to have some creative ideas on offense to be able to do things a little differently than what you guys were talking about with Vrabel regarding his wanting to run the ball, ground and pound, and that sort of thing.
Let's do this, Terry. Let's take our first break right now, and then we'll come back with all three of you and get down and dirty about where all this is, where it's headed, and how did we get to this? So stick around, all of you. From the beautiful Fordyce Center in Bellevue, this is the George Plaster Show.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, you need to call Bart Durham. And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
I'm Watson Brown.
I'm Kelly Holcomb.
I'm Billy Derrick.
We're the George Plaster Show. We've been Nashville's best sports talk for the last 30 years. And you know what? We still are.
Catch us live weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time in Nashville on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, the podcast version is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs. We're back. As most of you know by now, the Titans have fired head coach Mike Vrabel. And with that in mind, I've asked the three amigos to join us right to left, if there were a radio dial. Terry McCormick, Main Street Media. Kelly Holcomb, coming to us from Murfreesboro. And Watson Brown joining us by phone from Cookeville. Terry, I want to toss this one at you. Vrabel's no fool. He knows how to use a phone. Is it possible that last night, knowing that, boy, this doesn't look good, that he's on the phone talking to other people and finally says, you know what? I need to close shop on this one way or the other, and perhaps said to Amy, let's cut the crap. Either you're keeping me or you're not, because if you're not, there are other people that want me. I could see Vrabel doing that.
I could certainly see Vrabel doing something like that. I don't have any proof of it, but I could certainly see him, thinking that because, we know that if the New England job comes open, that he would be a prime candidate for Robert Kraft to bring him up there to replace Bill Belichick. There have been some rumors about the Washington Commanders, who are in a dire state of needing a rebuild as they go forward in the aftermath of Daniel Snyder's ownership. several other spots open. I don't know that he would be a candidate for the Atlanta Falcons because his protege, Arthur Smith, was just fired from there. And the LA Chargers would appear to be in a situation where they would want an offensive coach to maximize Justin Herbert. So there are a couple of areas where Vrabel would be a prime candidate to walk in and be the head coach. Perhaps he did that, George, because the interesting thing to me is that if something like that were in play, then Robert Kraft and the Patriots may have just outplayed the Titans on this. If they knew that Vrabel was in hot water, that he was in danger of losing his job, then it was smart of them to wait before making their decision. That way they don't have to give the Titans any draft compensation to acquire Mike Vrabel.
Terry, I'm going to start this with you. I've made my opinion known on two fronts as to where I think Vrabel and Rand Carthon went at it. I don't have any proof of it, but I think, if you're a halfway educated person, Kelly, don't you say anything, that you can sort of surmise some possibilities. So, Terry, let me start with you. What do you think ignited these two going at it like that?
It's a good question. I'm not really sure, but if I were going to speculate on it, I think it might have something to do with basic philosophy because, Amy Adams Strunk said that she wanted these two guys to be in lockstep with each other when she hired Rand Carthon a year ago. She said, I want, and Rand Carthon made it clear, my job is to get Mike Vrabel the players that he wants in order to fulfill his vision and help this team win ball games, that sort of thing. So I think two areas here maybe got sideways. I think maybe Vrabel, obviously a very competitive person and, with the DNA of wanting to win every time he steps on the field, regardless of shortcomings or how shorthanded his team might be, this team went for that competitive rebuild to try and fill holes with Andre Dillard and Sean Murphy-Bunting and Azeez Al-Shaair, Daniel Brunskill. Some of those moves worked. Some of them failed miserably. So maybe Rand Carthon thought that this thing needed a deeper rebuild, which is where we're headed now. And then the other thing is just philosophy in general. We know that Mike Vrabel, being a defensive-minded coach, has things a certain way that he likes to do it, like Kelly and Watson were talking about, before I came on, about how he likes his philosophy of running the ball, controlling the clock, playing solid defense, doing the things, winning those 18 to 17 games or whatever it may be. And Rand Carthon comes from the 49ers tree where offense is at a premium. They throw it around and, they have a nice complement in the run game. But the truth is they don't hand the ball off 30 times a game. They're throwing it around to people like, Asante or Samuel and people like Kittle and people like McCaffrey. So I think therein may have lied some of the differences between the two of them.
Watson, I've put my stuff out there as to what I think got them doing that. What do you think?
I think losing created it. Mike would not be a good loser. None of us are. But I think he's not going to sit there and take it. And if he feels like things aren't the way he wants them, he's going to let it be known. And I don't think it took long for him to start butting heads. It probably started, like you said, with the benching of the quarterback, because basically when you benched Ryan, you're basically saying, there's no way. I knew it. I don't care how talented the young man is. He hadn't had any training. He did not go in any of the preseason games. I think one. He was hurt through the whole thing. And you're going to put him out there and let him be the starter now when the sprained ankle happened, and then his ankle got well and he could go, and they didn't let him go. And I think right there's where it started. That's when I think Mike said, well, hell, they don't want to win this year. They're just getting ready for the next with this quarterback. And but I think losing created it. Mike's not a good loser. I've heard teammates of his say that. He becomes rough to handle when things aren't going well. And And I think losing created it, and they took each other on. And I'm not sure how much came back from Carthon, but I promise you Mike got in the middle of it, and it ended up costing him his job, in my personal opinion. But I'm not sure that's not best for Mike, because Mike couldn't stay here, George, if they're not GMing home, and that wouldn't work with anybody. And I think probably Mike's disappointed and upset, but he will be better off. And if he isn't a head coach this year, he sure will be next. I think he will be this year.
Kelly, give me your theory as to where they went south, because Carthon, how many times did he use collaborative early?
Yeah, I don't know if I can go anywhere else, George, to be honest with you. I mean, I think Terry and Coach have kind of summed it up. I mean, I think a lot of it, I think he's loyal to older guys, and I think a lot of it might have been done with the Ryan Tannehill situation. I really do, because I think Coach just hit it on the head. You know, are we really going to, sacrifice everything and not win any games to get this guy just to play? So I kind of think that's probably where it was, and a lot of it had to do with he's not winning games. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. I said, in the opener, I mean, it's about winning games in this league. It's about productivity, and if you're not winning games, I say it all the time on the show. A head coach, once he starts feeling heat, he's going to make sure that if he's not on the hot seat, he's going to make sure that the excuse goes to somebody else. But it's at the end of the day, it all comes back on the head coach at some point. And I think that's what's happened here. And I just don't think that was a good mix with them. They tried. She obviously hires Rand Carthon thinking that, maybe they can get along and maybe they can see eye to eye, but just doesn't work like that. And that's what I'm telling you. It was a different situation when you've got a head coach and now you hire a GM. It's normally where the GM and the head coach both get fired, and then you hire a GM and then he hires a head coach, or, you've already got a GM who fires the head coach. It was a different situation, and they didn't get along. And I think that showed. And at the end of the day, numbers and all that, it doesn't matter. What the number that matters is wins and losses, and he was getting those losses stacked up, and that just didn't go over well. And it doesn't go over well because that's what the owner, they're in it to win.
Terry,
I want to ask this: do you guys think Amy Adams Strunk kind of interjected herself in and said, "Play Will Levis"?
Yes.
Over Rand Carthon.
Me. Yes. Better answers, Watson and Kelly.
I'll go first, Kelly, and let you go then. I think what really went down with this is Carthon thought it was time to make the move. We brought in our quarterback. Mike said, ain't no way. And the owner had to jump in and get involved in it. And that's what ended it to me. And then they just kept losing after that because Mike knew. Mike knew that they could not win games with Will Levis yet. It wasn't time. Doesn't mean he's not the guy. I think he is, but it wasn't time. And to do that early in the year when there was still a lot at stake, and you look back on it, it makes you wonder because it's, well, Jacksonville's going to run away with this. They got a 4-game lead on us right now. Well, Jacksonville faded and everybody kind of jumped up. The Titans might have stuck with going on a winning spree in there. You don't know. I don't think it would happen, but we don't know. But when you bench your starter and your guy that's been in the league for 12 years, 13 years, and you put a guy that's not even been in preseason games in as your starter, it's basically saying we're playing for the next year.
Kelly?
Coach said it all. There's nothing else I can add to that, man. I hate piggybacking on him, but there's nothing like – I think that's absolutely went on. And I think in the last game you saw that Ryan Tannehill can still win games. He got injured. And I think that was a big reason why they split, because Rand Carthon drafted Will Levis. They moved up into the second round to get him, and he's the future of the franchise. Well, I think that the guy you're looking at on that screen right there, y'all talked about his competitive nature, and we all, when we get to that position and get to that league, we're all competitive. We want to win. And he didn't think that was the right time. Like, you're not going to allow a rookie to play if you don't have to, unless you're like the number one pick, and there's nothing else. I mean, you got to. He would have liked to have brought him along slowly and let Ryan Tannehill still hang in there. But I don't know if she got involved with that. But I'm sure Rand Carthon wanted to see him, and maybe the owner did get involved in it. I don't know, but it's it's happened now, and let's move on from here, I guess.
Well, we're not quite ready to move on yet.
Well,
Terry,
George, if that was the case, if they were at odds over whether or not Levis or Tannehill was going to play, then for Vrabel's sake, the worst thing that could have happened was for Levis to show out the way he did against the Falcons in his first game, because all that does is fuel the fire.
Okay. Terry, I happen to believe, and you've heard me say this before, Tannehill was maybe the start of it, although I don't know that. But the one that ended it, in my opinion, was the firing of the special teams coach. Mike Vrabel put up with Todd Downing and his escapades till the very end, and I'm hard-pressed as a halfway educated person to believe that – look at Kelly. I'm hard-pressed to believe that decision to get rid of that special teams coach was Vrabel. And I think that was the knockout blow.
I think you may be onto something there, George, because even in the press box that day after the second punt catastrophe and Stonehouse is, having to be carted off the field and whatnot with the season-ending injury, people in the press box were saying Vrabel is loyal to his coaches. Ackerman would not be fired until after the end of the season. And then lo and behold, we come in for the Monday presser. Vrabel takes the podium. Before he can be asked a question, he announces that Ackerman has been relieved of his duties. That's just kind of the way that one went down. And it certainly, as you said, was un-Vrabel-like for that to happen.
Let's do this. We'll go to our next break, and then we'll get into where all of this is going after the 4 o'clock press conference. So stick around. We got plenty more coming as we analyze the Titans' firing of Mike Vrabel.
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price,
These are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Okay, we're back. Most of you know the news by now. A little less than 3 hours ago, the Titans fired head coach Mike Vrabel. Terry McCormick in the middle, joining us from Main Street Media. He's out at the Titans complex, where they apparently will have a 4 p.m. press gathering. Kelly Holcomb is with us from Murfreesboro. Watson Brown is with us from Cookeville. So let's now get to the future. Terry, let's start with you today. My guess is that Rand Carthon will say virtually nothing. He'll use words, but he'll say absolutely nothing. But he will then run into some real resistance from the Nashville media as to where did we go from collaborative to this? How's he going to handle it?
It's a good question because he hasn't been in front of us very much. I haven't talked to him, but just a couple of times in interview settings since he got hired. His initial press conference, his meeting at the combine, and then I think maybe one other time we got to speak with him, but we haven't spoken to him hardly at all. I don't think at all since the season started and now has concluded for the Titans. So he's going to have a lot of questions to answer from us, I'm sure.
Watson, you have been involved in settings both as a coach and as an athletic director that are difficult to say the least. How should he handle today?
Well, what you should do is be honest and say why we had to do this. And if the honest answer is we just couldn't get away, our philosophies are so different, then say that. I don't think he will, because that's not been his MO since he came to town. He's not much to say anything. I think he'll dodge it and he'll just say this felt like it's time to move on. That's the way it is. And I'm not going to get into any deep detail about it. We need to win more games. We'd like to have a little change in philosophy, and he might hit that a little bit. And to say that we've just feel like we have got a really good young quarterback and we need to improve our offensive philosophy pieces. And that he might hit, but I just don't think I think he'll run from the other situation and we'll let it go. Honestly, for his sake, I've been on all ends of that. You're better off just being brutally honest and get it out, get it over with, and then move on.
Kelly, yesterday I threw out two names that do make sense. Jim Schwartz, who has done a phenomenal job as defensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns, a former head coach in this league. Arthur Smith, who got fired a day and a half ago in Atlanta. But the more I think about it, this is Ran Carthon's moment. And it seems to me it's got to have some San Francisco past. And with that in mind, I think we zero in on the Texans' offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick. What do you think?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, Schwartz has been here. He knows the area. He understands what he's got here. He's already been a head coach before. Wasn't great in Detroit. It's hard to win in Detroit. Dan Campbell's done a really good job. But if you're looking at someone, I mean, you look at all the guys, and we talked about it yesterday about the Shanahan coaching tree. His son, you got Sean McVay, you got Mike McDaniel, you got all these guys that are, and you got the LaFleur guy that's up in Green Bay. All these guys are a success story where they're at right now. So I think if you look at Bobby Slowick and they brought that up on the broadcast the other night, because he initially started out on the defensive side of the football, and now he's the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. And man, they're in the playoffs with a rookie quarterback I think he's a phenomenal player, and I think he's going to be really good for years to come. But I mean, he's kind of the guy that's initiated that offense. So I think that if you look at it and you look at success that coaching tree has had, I think you look no further than that, because he knows both sides of the ball, and he's an offensive coordinator right now. I think we've done the defensive coordinator deal, and that's if you bring Jim Schwartz in, he's kind of on the same deal as Mike Vrabel, because Mike Vrabel had him here as a consultant as well. So I think you're looking for an offensive guy, and I think he's a young guy, and he's from that tree, and all those guys have been successful. And I think that's what you look at. So I think he would probably be one of the first guys that they look at.
Okay, Terry, not only do I want you to share opinions on where this search is, but lay out for those who are kind of new to the NFL game, the Rooney Rule, what it entails, and what does it mean here?
Okay, the Rooney Rule basically is a rule put in place that says that all teams, before making a top-level hire of a head coach, a general manager, and I think it's been brought down even to the coordinator ranks, have to interview at least one minority candidate for that position before that job can be filled. Ran Carthon, obviously a minority GM, was brought in here last year, and obviously a beneficiary of the Rooney Rule, getting that interview and whatnot. And then also there's also an incentive that has been put on by the league, where when a minority candidate that comes from your organization is hired as a head coach or a general manager, as one of those top tier executives, your organization is rewarded with compensatory picks. So the 49ers got an extra draft pick because the Titans hired Ran Carthon as their general manager. Now, what I'm concerned about going forward, and I believe that the Titans do need to go after an offensive-minded coach, whether that's Slowick, whether that is Ben Johnson in Detroit, whether that is somebody else maybe that's on the sidelines, even a splashy hire like Jim Harbaugh. I think they do need to go after an offensive-minded coach to maximize Will Levis. But I have a question, and Watson and Kelly are both more than qualified to answer it because they've been coach and quarterback before, is what are you doing to Will Levis when you have fired the staff out from under him and you're making him start to learn a new offense at square one? Because we saw the Titans do this, bring in a new coordinator for Vince Young. We saw him bring in new coach and coordinator for Jake Locker. We saw him bring in new coordinators and coach for Marcus Mariota. every time it didn't work out. Now, some of that obviously is on the player themselves, but the coaching had to figure into it because it was a different system and a different changeup and a different offense that had to be learned.
It's a great question. You should get in the sports talk business. Watson, you start that one.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be near as big with Will because he just hadn't played much. He missed all preseason. I don't think he's real deep into this offense as it is. And with him that young and inexperienced, I don't think it'll matter. I think two things that I see. They look in their own division and they see that the hire with the Texans was a defensive guy, but he was from the 49ers, which is an offensive organization for sure. And I promise you, he told the Texans brass that I will bring in one of these guys as my offensive coordinator. That's the first thing. So I still believe. And the second thing is, to me, Terry, I know myself, when you get your back against the wall, you go back to what you believe and who you've learned from. And that's exactly what I think Carthon will do. He'll go back to the people he learned from. And that's through the Shanahan clan and the organization itself. And I just think that's what he'll do. I would be shocked if it doesn't come from that background in some way. But I don't think this will hurt Will at all. If he'd been in this system for 2 years and really been playing every week and all that, yeah. But I don't think that he's deep enough into it that it'll really matter.
Kelly, piggyback on that. Interesting answer. I hadn't thought about he hasn't been in it long enough for there to be damage. Take it and go wherever you're going to go.
Well, George, I just got to say this. There's a reason why you have Coach on because he's really smart, and everything that I'm going to. I mean, it's just he hit everything you can talk about. Like, I don't think you worry about when you're in making these calls right now. I don't think you worry about the quarterback. I don't think you worry about the team. You just have to fit. You just have to make the decision. They've made the decision right now, and now they have to go out and hire the best guy that they can hire. And obviously, Rand Carthon brought Will Levis here. He went up to the second round. He got him. He wants him to be successful because everybody's known for the relationship between the quarterback and the coach. And if you drafted the guy, I mean, that's what this league has become. I mean, you talked about collusion with running backs for so long, but this league now is a pass-driven league. And if you got the guy behind center that can win games for you, you got a shot to win the whole deal. And all these teams that are in the playoffs, with the exception maybe the Steelers, which I'm really liking what the older guy is doing, up there. So he touched everything. There's like Will Levis is a smart kid. He's going to be able to learn everything that you put in front of him. He's been in the NFL for a year. So, I was able to stay with a certain group of coaches. I was in Indianapolis and I started out with Lindy and Fonnie and I learned his offense, which is, we had 1,000 pages in our playbook. Then I went with Jim Moore and then, they brought those guys in. Then Bruce Arians came along and took me with him and I was able to stay in that same offense for a long time. But Mike Vrabel is a young guy. He's smart. He can learn anything. Now, if you're Rand Carthon, you want to get somebody because you drafted him. You want him to be successful, and you want the new head coach to buy into Will Levis.
Terry, what are the rules about talking to people who are in the playoffs?
Well, I think they've changed that a little bit. It used to be you had to go once the team you couldn't talk until the team was eliminated. You may remember that way back when a lot of people felt like Greg Williams beat out Marvin Lewis for the Buffalo Bills head coaching job because the Ravens had eliminated the Titans in that divisional round, and that freed up Greg Williams to go talk and be interviewed and make an impression, and Marvin Lewis was still playing on toward the Super Bowl. So I think you still have to, but I think there are windows now where they allow those coaches who are still in the playoffs to be able to interview with teams so that they don't get left behind.
So is there, on the college level, Watson would certainly know that, boy, if you get stuck in one of these where you got to find somebody now, you got to move quick because of transfer portal and NIL and all this various crap. On the pro level, is there really any huge rush given that teams are in the playoffs? The combine isn't till late February. Is there any real need for a quick answer?
This for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There is a real need to get there quickly because you don't want to be lagging behind these other openings that are being done around the league, the Chargers, the Falcons, the Commanders, etc., the Panthers. You want to go ahead and get your guy in place so he can start putting a staff together. There will be, maybe a few guys added at the Senior Bowl, at the Combine and all, but you really need to have somebody in place as your head coach probably before the Super Bowl is over. I would say within a couple of weeks here, George.
Okay, Kelly, I know you feel like you're batting third in the order, so we're moving you up to leadoff. We expect the leadoff batter to get on, have speed, steal a base, get to third.
Don't look to me to steal a base in, Hoss, because that wasn't happening. I could get on first, but I wasn't stealing a base.
You can't be the leadoff hitter then.
Watson and I will hit behind you, and we'll hit a ground ball to the right side.
No, you're a Yankee guy. It'll be a big strikeout.
George, I think just to go on what Terry said too is it's kind of a little bit now like because of free agency. Like I don't know when all that starts. I'm not sure when that starts, and I'm sure Terry can tell us. But like you want somebody in place because now it's recruiting is all it is. I can remember when Butch Davis was in Cleveland and we started bringing guys in, and it's. You take them out to dinner. You show them the facility. They meet with the position coach. They meet with the defensive or offensive coordinator. So it's a recruiting deal now. So, you have to get somebody in place because that has a lot to do. Like, say if Bill Belichick goes somewhere and there's some free agents out there that don't want to play for Bill Belichick. Well, you got to know all that stuff. So, yeah, it is time. There's some timing that goes along with it. So I just kind of want to reiterate what Terry said.
Yeah, thanks. That was wonderful. You're still the leadoff hitter. Okay, Otis Nixon. Will Jim Harbaugh be a part of this?
Ooh. I would think that they would at least
hold on. This is Kelly's.
This is me or Kelly?
No, this is Kelly's deal.
Yeah,
He's the leadoff hitter.
My bad,
this
Kelly.
is me. I don't know that. I think last night with him winning the national championship and beating Ohio State the last 3 years, I think he's done all he can do at the University of Michigan. I really do. Now it depends on what his goals are, but I think Jim talked about it last night. He talked about how he got to come up from the kids' table and sit at the big table with his dad and with John. So I think now Jim he just won a national championship. He's been to a Super Bowl against his brother. Now he wants to win a Super Bowl to be one of those guys that we talked about yesterday, Pete Carroll, Jimmy Johnson, Barry Switzer, that won a national championship and to go on to win a Super Bowl. So I think I don't know if he's going to be in the Titans talk, but yeah, he may because he's one of the top guys out there, and I'm sure all these teams will talk to him. I don't know. You talked about the Chargers and maybe Mike Vrabel or something, but like the Chargers just had a defensive guy, and that's how that stuff works. Coach will tell you that, and Terry too. I can remember talking with my agent. They just had a defensive coach. It didn't work out, so now they're looking for offense. That's how a lot of these owners think. And Harbaugh is an offensive-minded guy, and he did it really everywhere he's been. He's won, so I think he'll be in the talks. Yes.
Watson, what about you?
Yeah, I think first thing they do that I see in today's world is these owners in the NFL, if they go speak to an offensive guy, who's your defensive guy going to be? I mean, that's the first question because they're basically hiring two people.
Yeah.
And that's what I think will happen here. The other thing I think will happen here is the boss will have some input, and she'll probably go at some big names, maybe a Harbaugh. And then I think the GM's going to go to his background. And so you may get a little bit of mix of both of those two, George, in my opinion. But everybody gets hired now. If it's a defensive guy, who's your offensive coordinator? And most of them know before they go to the interview because they know they got to be able to give them a name.
Okay, Giancarlo Stanton, you have the final word. Harbaugh in this?
Well, I think it all depends on what Harbaugh wants to do. Does he want to, as Kelly said, be like Jimmy Johnson and Pete Carroll and make the jump where he can win a national championship in college and a Super Bowl in the NFL? Or does he prefer to be like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, some of these guys who have made a living by dominating the college game? So I think it all depends on what is Jim Harbaugh's preference. But I certainly think the Titans should have him on their radar if he's willing to make the jump to the NFL.
Terry, first of all, on your end, thank you on very short notice for doing this.
You're welcome.
Watson, on short notice, thank you for doing this.
Oh, it's always an honor, George. And good to talk to you, Terry.
Good to talk to you, Watson.
And Kelly, on short notice, you and I need to come up with the right answer on stat of the day after the break. How about that? And then we will actually, shockingly, talk about the national title game. Yeah. Connor O'Gara, and I hope I've said O'Gara from Saturday Down South will join us to talk about Michigan's very convincing victory over the University of Washington. Hail to the victors. We're back in a moment.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
We're getting ready to recap last night's national title, Michigan's win with Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South. But first, stat of the day brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards. You can find them out in Shelbyville. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call, 931-492-4304. All right, let's see what we've got today. Since entering the NFL in 2016, Derrick Henry is one of two players to have 70-plus rushing touchdowns during that span. Other than Henry, who is the only player with 70-plus rushing touchdowns since 2016?
When did when did Christian McCaffrey come out?
It's a good question.
Yeah. Because he would be one that you might put in there as a possibility. Saquon Barkley might be one. Kelly, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking Christian McCaffrey. But Saquon's pretty good. Saquon's a pretty good guess too, George.
Let's.
Those are the only two. Those are really the only two guys I can think of.
Let's go with one of those two.
Incorrect.
Oh wow,
Zeke.
Feed me.
Ezekiel Elliott. Wow.
Feed me.
Feed Zeke.
And when I'll say this, when they fed him, they really fed him, and then they stopped feeding him.
And before he put on all those LBs,
I would have never
he was
guessed Ezekiel Elliott, man.
Wow.
It was a good one.
Wow.
Are we now officially into the 3:00 hour?
We are.
We're finished with Mike Vrabel. This is your life.
We are.
Okay. Let's say hello then to Connor O'Gara, who joins us from Saturday down south. So what's the hat? What's the B?
That's a Chicago Bears hat, unfortunately.
The Bears, man. Bears.
Oh, so let's get down to it. Okay, before we get to what we're really bringing you on here for, what decision are they going to make?
Sadly, I think they're bringing back Eberflus. And I say sadly because I would love to see a world in which Jim Harbaugh would come home to Chicago. I realize Michigan was home at one point, but that's kind of the consensus opinion, I feel like, among Bears fans at this point. Is like, as great as it was to not be a total doormat this year, there are still just so many areas of this offense that could be improved. And I feel like Harbaugh would be the exact right fit for this city and would be embraced, welcomed with open arms in a way that I don't know that a Bears coach has been since Ditka.
The actual decision I was asking about was the quarterback deal.
Yeah, Justin Fields. Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, let's face it. If they decide that they don't need a quarterback, they could get quite the haul for that number one pick.
I don't know that you trade the number one pick twice. I don't know that you do that. And last year, that trade was just the type of move that you hear about. And at first, you're thinking to yourself, like, okay. And I say this as a DJ Moore apologist. I remember interviewing him at Big Ten Media Days 6 years ago when he was by himself and watching the player that he was at Maryland for just a misfit of quarterbacks they had there. And I was like, I love me some DJ Moore. And then you realize, oh, wait, it's swapping picks this year. It's the future first next year. And you realize what that pick could potentially become. And to think that turned into a number one pick, I mean, it's an unbelievable haul, but I don't think you do it twice. And I say that as someone that really wants Fields to be the guy, but I think they're going to end up going with Caleb Williams if I had to guess, and maybe they'll find a trade partner for Fields.
So we had a national title game last night, although in the first hour of our show, you'd have never known it with Mike Vrabel's firing. Were you surprised that at the end, Washington had no bullets left? It was like the no moss sign went up and we're done.
Yeah, I think there was a feeling in the second and third quarter of that game that, wow, Washington has weathered the storm. Michigan had those three big runs in the first quarter, and everybody's wondering, are we about to see 65-7 again? Because that's the last thing that anybody wanted to see. And Washington had a moment early in that fourth quarter where they look like they're about to go into Michigan territory. The catch that Roma Dunze makes after it had just been tough going in the passing game, you're feeling like Washington's going to get set up. They call a holding penalty that was pretty borderline, in my opinion. Washington punts, Michigan takes over, and then Michigan has the big passing play that happened after they got away with a hold on that play, the 41-yard pass to Loveland, and then boom, it's kind of all she wrote. Michigan scores there. Penix pick trying to make a play on fourth down on the next drive. And that's just how fleeting a national championship can be. And Washington was really close, I thought, at key points in that game and not necessarily indicative of that final score. But yeah, I wasn't necessarily surprised to see that they kind of ran out of gas. That offense just had a really, really tough going. Michigan was easily the best defense that Washington passing attack had faced all year.
Yeah, it felt like by a mile. What do you think this did to Penix's draft status?
I think while this game didn't help it, I still think this run and what he has shown as a thrower has him firmly in that first round conversation, like very firmly. And I was talking to Trevor Sycamore, who does great work at PFF. And one of the things he was saying is like, yeah, I think he was kind of that borderline guy coming into this season for some people that have been paying attention to his journey since it started back at my alma mater at Indiana. And then seeing the way that he has developed in this offense with Ryan Grubb. And not only that, but the way that he has stayed healthy, a guy that had 4 consecutive season ending injuries, he kind of answered a lot of those questions. And so that's why it was such a bummer to see him holding on to his ribs as he's walking off the field for the last time as a college player. But I definitely think he has helped himself in a very quarterback deep draft. I bet there are a lot of people that are going to knock him and say, oh, it's the offense he played in, or, oh, I don't like the injuries. But man, with a pure passer like him, the way that he can fit the football into some of these tight windows, I think it's absolutely going to play at the next level.
This is a dumb question, but I'm used to asking dumb questions. So Michigan is number 1. They're our national title team, and they've earned it. If you were going to put 2, 3, and 4 the way you honestly believe they are today, how would you rank them?
Are you asking me how I would rank them if we were just talking about who would I pick to win on a neutral site if these games were played tomorrow? Or are you saying like who's the most deserving based on the resume?
I don't know what I'm asking other than I'm curious how people view right now. Is Georgia the second best team? Is Alabama the second? Who is 2, 3, 4 mentally for you?
I still think Washington's the second best team. I think Washington showed that they deserve to be there. And even though that result looks like Michigan dominated, and you could look at the rushing numbers and say, well, Michigan just imposed their will. I push back. I think that game was much closer than what that indicated. I think Georgia would be the team that would probably be in any given day capable of winning a national championship. I think there were probably 6 teams this year that could have won a national championship if you had played out all the different scenarios. And Georgia played out the one scenario that they could have been left out of the playoff. They lost the one game they couldn't afford to lose. If they lost to South Carolina instead of Alabama, they're in the playoff. That's a weird thing to say, but it's true. And Georgia left this season feeling like, man, if we could have just gotten in, who knows? But did they deserve to be there over Alabama? No. And Alabama beat them on a neutral site and led for the final 43 minutes of that SEC championship. So I can't sit here and say that definitively Georgia is absolutely better than Alabama. And especially when you see Alabama's offensive line struggle against that Michigan defensive line, like Georgia wasn't doing that. Georgia wasn't doing that to Alabama's offensive line the way that it has, or the way that it could have the last 2 years. So I think that Georgia is part of that conversation, but not firmly in the belief that Georgia is automatically the number 2 team in the country just because they ended up going 13-1.
By the way, I love the baseball stuff in the background.
Appreciate that. I spent a summer interning at the Baseball Hall of Fame, and that is where I acquired the Billy Williams lithograph right there. And I'm unfortunately for a very long time in my life as a diehard Chicago Cubs fan, lived a very painful existence. But at least I had 2016. That's about all I could have ever asked for as a sports fan, and so I rep it proudly.
Hold on, you should. It was an incredible run. Kelly, say hello to Connor.
Connor, what's up, man? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. This first day, like once the college football season ends, for those of us in this business that are like year-round college football guys, it is always such a different transition when we talk about the hype and the buzz. But I know that my family is probably a little bit more appreciative that the season has finally come to an end.
So, since you're a Chicago Bears fan, have you been to many games up there?
I have not a ton, only more of like a handful, just because it's so difficult to get in and out of. I actually grew up right by where they're talking about putting Soldier Field. I grew up on the border of Buffalo Grove and Arlington Heights. So right where they're talking about putting the stadium by the Arlington racetrack is 10 minutes from my childhood home. So yeah, I have a little bit of a different connection to the Bears. Been to way more Cubs games than Bears games.
George, so I don't know if have you ever been to a game, George?
I've actually done when I did Titans preseason stuff, but it was before they turned it into a spaceship.
Yeah, they did turn
And
it
I
into a
remember-
spaceship. But I'm going to go far out there because they've got the best PA announcer anywhere. Because when you get a first down or when there's a timeout, I know he knows. I know Connor knows this. But when the PA announcer goes and there's a timeout, and the whole stadium goes where,
Yeah.
and then he goes on the field.
Yeah. I've heard people try and imitate that, and I didn't realize at the time. I can't remember when I first heard that as a kid that was a Bears thing, but it was one of those where I was like, "Oh, okay, this is just a Bears tradition." But to your point about it becoming a spaceship, that is such a painful sore subject for me. And my wife lives grew up in Indianapolis, and to see what Lucas Oil Stadium became was exactly what Soldier Field should have become. And to see Chicago miss out on all these big time events that they could have been hosting over the years, it's very, very frustrating for those of us that could have looked into the crystal ball and saw that building an outdoor spaceship with a crappy turf was not the way of the future.
When I was with the Cleveland Browns, George, we were winning 21-7. There was 58 seconds left to go in the game. Shane Matthews, the former Florida quarterback who became one of my really good friends, they scored with 58 seconds left. All right, so it made it 21-14. So then they kick an onside kick, get the onside kick, get it down, hit 2 plays, throw a Hail Mary. They get it. We're tied 21-21 going into overtime. Throw a pick for 6, game over for the Chicago Bears. I mean, we were over there on the sideline talking trash to the fans with 58 seconds left to go in the game, and they beat us 27-21. I don't know if you remember that.
I saw that clip actually not that long ago. I remembered watching it at the time, and I can't remember. It was some sort of anniversary of that play. I want to say it was a Mike Brown pick 6.
Yes, it was. It was a Mike Brown pick 6.
Yeah. So like that, man, that was the Bears offense, just pick 6 or Devin Hester touchdowns. That's what I grew up on. So usually like our ears would perk up a little bit more when the Bears were on defense compared to offense. But that definitely that game kind of stands out. I want to say my dad might have been at that game or something like that too. Like just a wild sequence of events.
Yeah, I was there. It wasn't fun. Well, I'll get on to another subject, man. I'm tired of being nostalgic. My fault. Sorry. Let's get back on the Georgia thing. So with the top 4 teams, do you think Georgia was one of the top 4? You know, the committee always talks about we want to get the top 4 teams, but when they got beat by Alabama, obviously they weren't going to let 2 SEC teams in with the way that the conferences played out this year. But do you think that Georgia was probably one of the top 4? Because I know that you said that you thought that Washington was the second best team, but still, I think Michigan would have a hard time with Georgia. I don't know that. We'll never know that. I don't know that, but I just think that they beat Washington. I don't know if they beat Michigan. We don't know that. Michigan's a national champion, but do you think they were in one of the top 4?
Yeah, I do. And I wasn't sitting there banging the drum that Georgia should have made the playoff. They didn't deserve to, in my opinion, because the perfect storm happened. And you know, the team that you lost to, and then the team that beat the team that you lost to, those teams were getting in. And it was a bad year to be a 1-loss team in this field. But yeah, I mean, I would have taken Georgia to probably even in a head-to-head against Michigan. Kirby Smart has won 7 consecutive bowl games since that debacle against Texas, wherein the Longhorns won that game after a 4-loss season and then declared themselves back very prematurely. So, but Georgia has gotten on this stage and said, yeah, we don't care if we're playing for a playoff berth, if it's just New Year's 6, whatever the case may be, we're going to find a way to beat you. And I think this Georgia team, while it definitely wasn't perfect, I still think that they had the offensive firepower when healthy to be able to beat anybody in the country. Now, they weren't healthy in the SEC championship either. Brock Bowers was not at 100% coming off of the tightrope surgery. Ladd McConkey was still not the full version of Ladd McConkey that we had seen in the first part of his career. And so that hurt them. That definitely did. But the Georgia didn't have the game records on the defensive line that they've had the previous 2 years to not have a Jalen Carter, a Jordan Davis, Trayvon Walker, whatever you want to name. Like they didn't have those guys this year. And I thought it allowed them to play down to certain teams that they didn't play down to in the previous 2. So yeah, they could have been considered one of the best 4 teams in the country. It'll be fascinating to see a team like Georgia get in the 12-team playoff. They'll be the team that nobody wants to face, even if they aren't getting one of those top 4 rankings.
So getting back to Harbaugh, I played with Harbaugh in Indianapolis long time ago. But my thing is, I think he won a national championship. He's beaten Ohio State the last 3 years in a row. What is your opinion on him? Is he going to come out? And even with you saying that, like if he does start interviewing for some NFL jobs, do you think that makes the brass at the Chicago Bears think about Eberflus a little bit more and say, hey, we might have an opportunity to get one of our former alumni guys that played with Ditka? I mean, is that a perfect storm for him?
I think so, and I think that's why the Bears have tried to be really adamant that they're not making a move. Is I don't think they're going to make a move for just anyone. Now, if a Vrabel, a Harbaugh is suddenly interested in that opportunity, then that changes the conversation. But I do think that Harbaugh has coached his last game in Michigan. He did what he set out to do. He won a national championship at a place that had one shared national championship since the Harry Truman administration. I mean, we talk about Michigan as the most successful program with the most wins in of anybody in college football, but reality is they have done nothing on that stage in really the post-integration world of the sport. And so for me to see Harbaugh celebrate like that and to see the way that he's played at Coy talking about his future, I hope to have one. The fact that he's interviewed for NFL head coaching vacancies after two previous playoff berths, it tells me that part of his career, that is an itch that he still wants to scratch. And if doing this feels like closure, then yeah, now is the time to move on. You've got a replacement in Sharon Moore that can take over if that's the direction they decide to go. But I do think that Harbaugh will entertain those NFL opportunities. And I think that even though Michigan wants to have him back, that $120 million contract, whatever it is that they've offered him reportedly, like they want to have him back, but they also know that if there's a time to leave, maybe this is right now after doing what he just did.
Yeah. So my last question: do you like the 12-team playoff, or do you think it needs to be more? I mean, I'm not a big fan of the 4-team. I don't like the committee and stuff, but I mean, do you like the 12-team, or would you like to see more? I mean, when I was playing, I was a 1AA guy, FCS guy, long time ago. I like that. You know, all those teams are. You actually have a national champion. What is your thoughts on the 12-team playoff?
I think there's positives and negatives that go with it. I don't like the idea of a 9-3 team still having a chance to play for a national championship. If that makes me old fashioned, then so be it. I don't like the fact that some of these late season games that we talk about with Michigan, Ohio State, or Georgia, Alabama in the SEC championship. I don't like the fact that we're just going to say, oh well, maybe they'll face each other again in the playoff, but both teams are already in. I don't like that, but I think that there are still going to be positives. I think getting more teams involved. I mean, I was going through it with the SEC that next year, the expanded SEC, 16 teams in it now with Texas and Oklahoma joining. I'm like, I think 8 SEC teams could legitimately say going into the season, we feel like we should make the college football playoff. Now that won't happen, but it just opens up the field in a way that it really wasn't open before. And I don't think people realize how hard it was to win a national championship in the playoff era. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm okay with 12. I don't necessarily think it needs to expand much more and have somebody go through a 17 game, right? 17 game season to be able to win a national championship. I think that we can crown a champion much sooner than that. So I'm okay with 12, even though I didn't really feel like it had to be moved off of 4. I get why it happened, why the money thing was just too tough to turn down. So I'll embrace it. It's an adapt or die world that we're living in, and I will adapt to the 12th playoff, as many will.
Hey, Connor, I got to ask one last thing while we've got you here. If you know nothing, feel free to say, George, I just don't know. Reinsdorf and our mayor, and this has gotten kind of lost in the shuffle of all the postseason bowl stuff and NFL and now the firing of Vrabel. Reinsdorf and our mayor had some sort of a meeting around the baseball winter meetings. I don't know if you can fill in a gap. Who contacted who to get all that started? And what's the reaction in Chicago to that news?
I have no inside information on that, but I do know that White Sox fans are very fed up. I mean, really, really fed up. And seeing this window close is so brutal. And seeing the ownership operate the way that it has. Like you talk about, I talked about how it's difficult to get Soldier Field. Fans have really hated that over the years. go to Guaranteed Rate Field, Comiskey Field, whatever you want to call it, and to see the product that they have put on the field for a very long time. There are White Sox fans that are just over it at this point. And I can't say that I blame them with the way that things have gone and to be having those conversations about a potential move in a place where, look, they're always going to be second fiddle. They just always are. And even when they won it all in 05, like, I don't know, everybody kind of went back to being like, okay, well, when are the Cubs going to break through and be able to do that? And I'm saying that as a biased Cubs fan, of course, but yeah, without any sort of inside information about what those conversations were, I do know that White Sox fans have kind of had it up to here with the way that Reinsdorf has operated in the past. Yeah. And it does feel like an operation that is just completely stale at this point of its existence.
Dylan Cease and a cast of nobodies. Connor, thank you for taking the time to join us. Good stuff.
Gentlemen, really appreciate it.
Connor O'Gara joining us from Saturday Down South. After the break, we'll have more of the show. And where are we going? I don't know. But 2 minutes from now, I will. So don't go away.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
The George Plaster Show is Nashville's best sports talk, 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. There's a podcast version available on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, you need to call Bart Durham. And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs. So here we are with another Titan coaching search. Mike Vrabel getting fired earlier today. So, Kelly, as we left the air, let's say last Friday, did you think he was going to get fired?
No. I did not. I mean, y'all probably have a little bit more of insight than I do, but I didn't think he would get fired. Everybody kept saying, I said it earlier in the year. I said it to somebody and they were like, he's not going to get fired. That owner loves him. And obviously, she loves winning more than she does a guy. I mean, obviously they had some good times together, but the production is what this league is about. That's what professional sports is about. It's about putting people in the seats. It's about making money. It's about winning ball games. And the last couple of years, he hadn't done that. And for whatever reason, they've had a bunch of. It seems like they have a bunch of injuries. I don't know. I know that when you have a bunch of injuries, you got to start looking at what you're doing in the strength conditioning aspect of your team. And I don't know who. I'm not calling anybody out, but I just know when I was in Cleveland, my strength coach was the best, Buddy Morris. He was the best strength coach I'd ever been around, but he was so smart that the trainers, you don't ever see this, George, but the trainers would go to our strength coach and ask him how this person that just had knee surgery or this person just had, what are the best things we need to do to rehab him? They would go ask the strength coach, and he's really good. And I always tell people this, like, if you're a head coach, your first hire better be a really, really, really good strength coach, because he sees the players more than the position coaches, more than anybody else. And especially in the off season. So it just seemed to me like there's something going on strength conditioning wise, where you're getting all those soft tissue injuries with hamstrings, with quads, with things like that. And that is a strength conditioning deal, so I don't know.
I've always thought, and I'm biased about this, that one of his early mistakes was not retaining Steve Watterson. There's a reason why Watterson had survived, God, I don't know, 5 different head coaches, because they all realized he was damn good. They have gone from, in the Watterson era, right at the least injury team to the absolute worst. You've brought up a really interesting point that whoever is coming in here better figure that out, because it is hurting this franchise dearly.
People don't think about that stuff, man. That stuff has something to do, because I remember when I came into the National Football League, and my agent told me, he's like, your body is your asset. You have to take care of it. And if you're not on the field and you're not able to play and there's no reliability on you, I mean, that's when people have an excuse to get rid of you. So you have to have a good guy in that place. I've always told people, like, your first couple of hires, you better hire a really good strength coach, and you better hire a really good offensive line coach, because offensive line coaches like myself, I'm a quarterback. I know who's supposed to be blocked, but I don't know the proper techniques and all that. And most guys that become head coaches, like Harbaugh, I mean, he's the same way. Now, he might have learned that stuff from his dad a long time ago, but you have to have good guys that can coach, and you have to have a good strength coach, because he's so important. And if you're constantly having injuries, you've got to look at that. You've got to take a honest assessment of your organization and see, hey, why are these guys getting hurt? Because when I was in Cleveland, that guy, he's with the Cardinals now, but like, we never had guys hurt, because he knew, how far to take you. He knew when to back off. He knew when to push you hard. He was really good. The best I've ever been around.
The next coach, not that he needs my help, but a suggestion that I would toss out there is, when it comes to offensive line coach, because that is a critical piece of what ails them.
Yep. Huge.
Before I go hire anybody, I'm putting a phone call into Mike Munchak.
I knew he was going to go there. Yeah.
Yeah. Munch is a terrific offensive line coach.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, at the very top of that game. Mike was in town, sat a row behind me at Frank Wycheck's funeral. Again, I don't know what his interest is, but I'd make him say no.
I agree, man. I mean, it's so important to have a really good O-line coach, and other people don't understand that either. And they're finally figuring that out, because Now, I'm not saying that the O-line coach is bad because you have to work with what you're given. And he might not have had much to work with, which obviously it looks like, that they've struggled the last couple of years of creating any holes for Derrick Henry and protecting Ryan Tannehill. So, but that's a huge, huge hire for a head coach to get a really good offensive line coach because there's not many good ones out there, George.
The first time, Kelly, that I really said to myself, okay, there's a real shot there's going to be a coaching change was Sunday night around 8:30. I had gotten a piece of information. You know where I got it. Billy knows where I got it. No one else going to know where I got it. But I knew then this is really serious, and I'm not sure I know where it's going. That's the first time I said to myself, there's probably going to be a change.
I just wonder if, and Watson kind of brought this up too. I just wonder if, because I think Mike Vrabel, you can tell by his demeanor, he's headstrong now. And
big time.
And just like Coach talked about, I bet he's hard to deal with when things aren't going right. And I just wonder if he went in that meeting and he gave some ultimatums himself, and that kind of, around the room pissed everybody off. And they said, well, we're just not going to be able to make this work because he's not going to give in to any of our concessions. I can see that happening.
Oh, I absolutely could. In fact, my gut feeling is that's what happened. Now, do I think we're going to learn anything today? Not really.
No.
I would hope that Rand Carthon takes to heart, not that he was listening, what Watson Brown said, which is we need to hear some of the truth here. We don't need a lot of gobbledygook, and we don't need 50 uses of the word collaborative, because clearly there hadn't been any collaborative, and it's hurt this franchise. I said it at the beginning of the show, and I'll say it again. Amy Adams Strunk has allowed two different power struggles to go on here. She sided with Vrabel a year ago on John Robinson, and now she has sided with Rand Carthon over Mike Vrabel. All this power struggle crap needs to stop, and she needs to make it clear to both of them, if you can't work together, I will blow both of you out of here. I don't know that she's got any choice.
I mean, I think that Vrabel was the one that's been here for a while. I think she hired Rand Carthon. Obviously, she got some advice from people around the league, and he was kind of an up-and-coming guy, and she's got to put a little bit of rope out there. I mean, we got to give him a little bit of an opportunity to try to piece together just what he foresees a team being here. So with what he's got now, what he's got coming back, what he needs to go get, what he needs to draft, you got to give him an opportunity to do that. And if he can't do it, then we'll be talking about him a year or two down the road too, about him getting let go.
Couple of things here as we end all this talk. Clearly, Vrabel had a couple, 3 weaknesses. His regime had way too many injuries. His offense at times was downright boring.
Pedestrian.
Those are 2 big problems. And I personally don't think, as time went on, that he had a very strong coaching staff. Those are 3, in my mind, negatives about him. The positives, I'll start at the very top. Man, that guy gets people to play hard for him. And there is something to say for him on that front, which is why I think he's going to end up with something else pretty quick. I think players like playing for him. I don't think you get the effort you got a couple of days ago if they didn't.
No, I think that players know that he's got their back. I mean, I think that he's been in the battle. He knows what it takes. He just watching him out there at practice, he gets in with those guys. Guys love that stuff. They really do. But I'm going to piggyback on what Watson said. Was I think that he's got to sit down and think and have a self-evaluation of himself, and I think he's got to change a little bit of his offensive philosophy. I really do. I don't think you can be the Woody Hayes 4 yards in a cloud of dust anymore. That game is different. Now I will say this. Everybody's gone to, and they even brought it up on the broadcast last night of the national championship game. You got to give it to Jim Harbaugh because he's kind of old school with that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I can remember him having an interview, and they were asking him about Bo Schembechler, and Bo was like, "Jimmy, tell me this: are you going to be able to run the ball?" And he's like, "Yes, coach." He's like, "Are you going to have a fullback, Jimmy?" And he's like, "Yes." "Are you going to play with a tight end, Jimmy?" "Yes, coach, I am." Well, I think he kind of got away from that a little bit when he first went to Michigan. And then he started allowing somebody else to call the plays. But he said, this is the kind of offense that I won't run. And even Nick Saban talked about, we're used to all these teams going fast. Michigan every time. We're not used to that. So I don't know. Just I guess it's whatever floats your boat. But I think Mike Vrabel has to think about his offensive philosophy and change a little bit of how he thinks about it in the National Football League.
Billy, you have sat back and watched all this today as we've brought a series of people in. Anything there that has really struck you?
I think, Kelly and everybody hit on it. Mike Vrabel was not going to be a fit with what the Titans ownership wanted to do. And I think this was ultimately going to happen, whether it was trading him or, there was going to be a move. When I saw it today, though, it was shocking. It shouldn't have been as surprising as it was, but it still surprised me, the fact that I did see that officially. And I've realized that Vrabel is a player's coach. He's got all kinds of players coming out saying this isn't right. Obviously, there's people out there that think the Titans have an ownership problem, and a lot of people are kind of coming for Amy Adams' head, which can be up for debate. Either way, it's up to Rand Carthon now to figure this out. I mean, it's in his hands, Amy's hands, and they got to figure it out. But I still think the Titans, they're in a worse spot than they had Mike Vrabel. I think they probably knew that. But I think revisionist history is gonna be kind to Mike Vrabel here in the next few years. You compared the Kevin Stallings, talking about him when he left Vandy. I think revisionist history is probably going to be kind to Mike Vrabel too. Just looking at where they're at, and it's going to take 2 or 3 years here. I mean, I think they're in rebuild mode now. Maybe they weren't, before the season, but this is a rebuild mode. Burn it down, recreate. I mean, really from the bottom. You're not going to have Derrick Henry, no Mike Vrabel. The old Titans under Vrabel is done.
In time for the new stadium.
Yes, that's what it feels like. A ton of pressure. It can be turned around. I mean, the NFL, there's been teams that have turned it around before, though, quickly. Can the Titans do it? Are they built for it? I don't know. They think they have their quarterback, but we'll see. It just feels a lot worse now, all of a sudden, because they made the move. But it feels like that's what had to happen.
Well, mostly because we knew Jacksonville was going to be very good.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that Houston and Indy were going to come on like a house of fire. Nobody could have known that C.J. Stroud, as a rookie, would have an MVP kind of year. And he did.
Yeah.
He's not going to win it. But
he's
he
really
did.
good, man. He's a really good football player, and it's going to be for years to come. And then Indianapolis made it within one game with Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
So, that's obviously not their guy. They think Anthony Richardson's their guy. So, if he plays well next year, what's the Indianapolis like this? This went from a really down division to right now the Titans are in the cellar.
Yeah,
it's pretty strong.
It's crazy to think you go from an AFC Championship game appearance to this. It's crazy thinking about it.
After the break, we'll have Plaster Bet of the Day, and then we'll call it a day on a crazy weather day as well. 40-mile-an-hour winds. When we started the show, it was bright sunshine. Right now, it looks like the bottom's about to drop out. Either way, stay with us.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
Final segment on a Tuesday. Got the Preds in action tonight against the Ducks. Also got some college hoops as well. We'll see where George is going. But first, let's get to bet of the day. Brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Give them a call, 615-242-9000, or log on to bartdurham.com. All right, let's check out what happened last night. Washington did not win or even cover.
And truthfully, even when it got to within a touchdown, I just never felt it.
The interception right out of half was awful.
Yeah.
It never felt like it was competitive at all.
It felt like Washington was holding on for dear life.
They did good enough just to be as close as they were.
Yeah, I mean, they made it pretty interesting for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah.
But at no point did I ever honestly say to myself, here comes Washington. They're going to win this thing. Never felt it.
Nope.
Okay, so when all else fails, take the Preds at home tonight against Anaheim. Yeah.
Going with the Preds.
That's the first of 2 selections, Kelly.
Oh, you got another one.
I felt that I had to take this one. Kansas State is really good. West Virginia sucks. Kansas State's going to go on the road and win. Book it.
Book it.
Book it.
Okay, book it.
We feel very strongly about this.
Who is West Virginia's coach now?
The guy that replaced Huggins, and I don't
whoever.
remember who it is.
Well, they're down the drain now that Huggins is gone.
Yeah. For those of you watching our show live, supposedly the press conference at the Titans will be at 4 p.m. The way it's been explained to me, it will be Rand Carthon talking. I don't think it's Amy Adams Strunk, which I happen to think is a mistake. She ought to be, facing a little of this as well, but doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. Either way, consult a radio station near you. Did you like that?
I did. I did like that.
Behave until tomorrow.
See y'all.
Billy, try to behave.
I'll try.
Billy, go play in the street.
Good way to end it. See ya.